Hello. Welcome to the Goddess Breath podcast. I'm Dr. Mari Castle, and I am super excited to have a guest on the show today. So, uh, Dr. Elise Hebert, would you like to just say hello?
Thank you so much, Mari, for having me on this podcast and talking about something that I adore.
Mm,
Yeah, I just thought I'd do a little intro about myself, which is that I really thought I was going to be a psychotherapist for a while. I had like a 10-year dream of that and went ahead and did the education and then just realized it wasn't aligned for me. So now I've taken that psychological training and do something I love, which is called astrological counseling. And so even though this isn't psychotherapy that I do with people, I just bring all that psychological training to this deep process and I just love it.
I love that. I love that you found your niche.
Yeah.
I think that's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want you to, yeah, I want you, if you could explain all about what that is for you that you do, like for, in layman's terms kind of thing. But just really quick, I want to say that for the audience that we met sort of like coincidentally at a retreat for, it was a women's retreat to go to visit the Serpent Mound and some of the other, I think it's called glyphs in near Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah.
And it's just so we just kind of like clicked, and the whole
Yeah.
group was so great. Like we were all just gelled. It was really a
Yeah.
wonderful weekend. I'm so glad that I listened to the call and
Yeah.
showed up,
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I'd shared with you that I do the breath work and everything. So that, uh, kind of not really overlaps, but based on my background with transpersonal psychology and all of you explaining about the archetypal astrology that you do, I think you call it archetypal, or you can tell me. But
Sure.
yeah, say that again.
Oh, yeah. I was just saying, sure. You go ahead and I'll explain a little bit about it.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
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 Um, yeah, so I just like to start with a breath, right?
Yeah.
Like just to it doesn't have to be anything specific or anything, but we're just like focusing on our breath here to get present, right? Because when we do that, and this could have to do with what we're talking about today with the masculine and feminine energies, that we bring that alignment together when we just have that conscious, intentional breath. And even when we expand into the abdominal area, like the belly breathing, when we do that, and we just do that for, doesn't need to be long, like 5, 6, 10 breaths, whatever works for the person, whoever, whenever you're doing it, um, to really notice, like, oh, I feel more present. I feel more aware. I feel more in balance. And so, yeah, I just wanted to say that quickly. That's what we're rolling into with your sharing today. And thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Oh, so my pleasure. And the breath is so important. I've
Mm.
done holotropic breath work. So when I heard that you've been doing this for 20 years, that was a pretty deep resonance because what I discovered about myself in breath work was, I want to say unbelievable, but it's totally believable. It's a little bit like there's just a thin curtain. And then with the breath work, you pull the curtain back and you're so amazed at what lies on the other side, which is just so informative. And so I honor that work that you do because it really is so amazing and profound.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. So go into what you want to share with us, please.
Ye-
And
Yeah,
anything more that you want to share about yourself,
sure. Sure. Okay. So the form of astrology that I study is called the Shamanic Astrology paradigm. And my teacher, Daniel Jamario, is the founder of this, and he's been doing astrology for 53 years. So a really long time. And Uh, it's a very deep form of astrology, and we could call it archetypal, though it's not officially, because there is an archetypal astrology, but we use the archetypes uh, and mythic stories to help people understand who they are. And Carl Jung was one of his teachers, he would say. So that aligns with my degree in somatic depth psychology too. So when I saw that, I just felt a super deep resonance with it. And if you go on the internet, you'll see a lot about what we call sun sign astrology, as in the sun sign of a person's chart, meaning when you were born, what sign was the sun in when you were born? A lot of us know that because you'll be at a party and someone will say, "What's your sign?" And then you'll say, "The sun sign." But a lot of people think, "Oh, that's who I am, my sun sign." When in fact, there are 9 points on the chart that are very personal to you. So it's just one little part of you. But we de-emphasize that and emphasize like the rising sign as something here you're here to master. Um, and then today, you and I wanted to talk about the inner sacred marriage process, which is something that my teacher created, and it kind of came from Carl Jung's work. Uh,
Oh,
yeah. So, Carl Jung had used the anima and the animus. And so my teacher went from there and related it to astrology. So, what's really interesting about this, just a kind of little general thing to say, is that in our modern society, we're always looking outside ourselves, and we're encouraged to look outside ourselves for completion, right? With the soulmate, the twin
right.
flame, the beloved. Um, and there's something to that. There's something to that that I'll get back to later. But basically, it's this inner sacred marriage process helps us do some interpersonal work. And it's really all about creating wholeness. And I personally believe, I don't know where you're at with this, but I believe when you are partnered, there's some really important growth work that happens that just can't happen unless you're in relationship.
I would agree with that. Yes.
Yeah. And the way I talk about that in a funny way is that when you're in relationship, somebody, because your attachment system gets activated and whatnot, that person can get into the nooks and crannies where you might have some stuff hiding out. Right? You can go along single, just be like, that's all closed up. And then someone comes along and it's like, oh my goodness. Uh,
Yeah. I like how you call it nooks and crannies.
I know, nooks and crannies, because they're just these hidden little places where things are stored away. And
Mm,
so that growth in relationship, I think, is beautiful, especially when two people are aware and intentional. Like, we are going to trigger each other and bring up things. And that's part of being partnered, right?
mhm.
So there's that. But I also believe that if we each can do some personal growth, some personal work on inner wholeness, wow, we really set ourselves up for the best scenario possible when we do partner.
Yes,
Right.
100%.
Yeah. So this inner sacred marriage process is really about creating that kind of wholeness and doing that work. And it's a beautiful way to approach this, because you could say to someone, you've got to do your inner work on wholeness. And then they'd be like, okay, how? And that's what's great about our paradigm of astrology. You look at your chart and you go and see what sign is your Venus in, what sign is your Mars in. And this gives us some very exquisite instructions from Great Mystery about how to approach this process. Um, and I want to say one thing, like whatever it is your Venus and Mars, and we're just talking about those two signs now. There's like so much
Okay.
else to talk about, but whatever your Venus and Mars are in, that's the intent, right? Because we could look at your chart or my chart and we could say, your Venus is in, mine's in Aquarius. Like for so long, I had not embodied it. So just because someone's Venus is in a certain sign doesn't mean they're doing it, being it, embodying it. So, and the beautiful thing about our paradigm is that, you know, historically speaking, women have only been allowed to be a certain way. It's been accepted and allowed, right? Like that nurturing, caring person archetype, which we could say in astrology is like Cancer and Pisces. So we were rewarded as females for a very long time for being that. And same thing for the masculine. Males have been rewarded for being the leader or the warrior, which is like Aries or Leo, but not for being a beautiful nurturer, caretaker, and that for them would be Pisces, Cancer. So what I love about our school is we have 12 legitimate archetypes for the feminine and 12 legitimate places on the wheel for the masculine. And so I just want to point that out, and that those archetypes, we believe, are continually shifting and changing. You know, they're not static, because right now we're in a really big period of change. And so the archetypes are also evolving. So just to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Mhm.
So what I thought I might do is use a client example, because that's very practical and helps people really understand it.
Yeah, I love that. It's good. Yeah, for the audience, anybody listening that maybe doesn't know that much about astrology. I think
Right.
everybody identifies with Venus as very feminine and Mars is very masculine in that book,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah, women are from whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, that book and that idea is quite limited, but I get where you're going. That's how people think of it.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, there's so much to say. So I feel like I'm jumping in the middle, but we'll do that anyway, right?
Yeah.
So we'll call my client Christy. And when she was born, just for those who kind of don't know, when she was born, the minute she popped out of the womb, the planet Venus was in the sign or archetype of Aries. And the planet Mars was in the sign or the archetype of Taurus. So what does that mean? So for her, Venus in Aries, she's born biologically female. Venus in Aries is the warrior. It's an archetype of where you're learning about yourself through your own accomplishments and achievements. You're encouraged to be bold and to be brave and to find a cause worth fighting for. So that's what she was here to step in as, the intended expression of her feminine. And then her Mars in Taurus, because she's born biologically female, whatever her Mars is in is her inner masculine that she's here to embody. And it's also, and this always happens, I'll say to a client, have you found that you've been attracted to this type of romantic partner? Meaning she's been out there looking for a man, in her case, because she's heterosexual, that fulfills that archetype of Taurus. So it's very natural for us to long for the inner masculine in her case, and to look for it outside ourselves, look for it outside herself. And so in the work that we do together, now she knows what's the flavor of my feminine, what's the flavor of my masculine. So the path to inner wholeness becomes more specific. As I was saying before, it's like we all know, okay, we should work on wholeness, but how? And this paradigm allows for a really specific way to do it. So she, like I said, would be maybe thinking Mars and Taurus is the kind of guy that I would like. And she might even project it. And by projection, I don't mean the usual kind of projection. I mean, like you project an image on a screen. She might go through life and project the Mars and Taurus qualities of being present, grounded, looking for a man who's present, grounded, artistic, a master of intimacy, a great receiver, someone who's very grounded. She might be looking for that on the outside of herself, but the inner sacred marriage work for her is to marry that Taurus within herself, to embody those characteristics for herself. Does that make sense?
Guys, yes. Yes. It makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So the goal here, as I said before, is inner wholeness. But the side benefit, people like kind of get excited about the side benefit. The side benefit is once you, as a woman, are walking around with, in her case, her Mars and Taurus on her arm at all times, she's now no longer looking for that outside. And the theory goes that then she feels more aligned, and any of the shadows that come with looking for something outside yourself start to disappear.
That sounds good.
Yeah, doesn't it? Yeah, exactly. But I always have to reiterate, it's the goal is inner wholeness. That's what we're going for.
Yes. I
And
love that. Yeah.
yeah. And so one thing about Taurus is that it is the biggest receiver sign of all 12. So it's part of her intent to learn to be Taurus, which includes being an amazing receiver. Um, and in her childhood, she was not allowed to receive. Really quite literally not at all. So receiving for her was really, really odd.
Mm.
And I think as women, we're taught to give and to nurture, as I said earlier, and that receiving or taking pleasure just for pleasure's sake, which is Taurus, is really not sanctioned. We can be called selfish for that. So
Right.
that also helps, right? When I say to a client, like, you're here to explore pleasure just for pleasure's sake, period. You know,
Right. Yes. I get what you're saying. Yeah, for sure.
what a concept. It gives you permission.
Exactly.
You-
Which I need that more and more. Yeah.
Absolutely. I find that this astrology work gives you a lot of compassion for yourself and for other people when you know this isn't personal. This person just came to experience this kind of archetypal energy.
Yeah.
It's not personal.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
It's a different perspective. Yeah.
totally. That's one thing I really love about it. So, in learning to receive, that was new for her. So, it's kind of like, how are we going to go about this? So,
Mhm.
one of the first things I asked her is I sort of sat quietly with her and set up a scenario of like her receiving a gift and what did that feel like in her body. And she was so tweaked. She even like got contracted and kind of pulled inward. And it was like, okay, let's note that. What does that come from? What does that remind you of? So that she had sort of a baseline for what it's like to receive somatically. So that, and then we set it up to like, how could she just dip her toe in the water of reacting differently, like just a slight difference. Even just noticing that that was her initial reaction was really an important step. And so that was really helpful to her. And then the second thing was she was at a baby shower and she noted that the mother to be was just this amazing, gracious receiver. So she was like, I was just studying her and watching how she did it. So modeling, finding someone you can model after
Yeah.
was another really an amazing idea for learning to receive.
Yeah. Almost like a very personalized archetype, right? Like that you can see what is happening outside and then bring that within. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. And then the other thing that I often work on with clients and did with her is like, who do you know that's like a really amazing friend, or say her husband as well, where you can go and say, you know what, I don't know how to receive and I'm really working on this. Could you help me with that? As in, I don't know, the next time we go on an outing, instead of me planning it, would you mind being the one to plan it
Mm,
and bring the items? And next time I'll do it, but this time, could you do it so that I can practice really receiving that?
yeah. Yeah. I love that too. Right.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
always try to, I just in a recent relationship now, it's been about 6, 7 months. So I'm always trying to bring balance. Like, he's very much a giver. And then I'm like, okay, it's like almost like not a competition, but it's kind of in me. Like I want to match, right? His giving. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's lovely. That's lovely. And then you matching his giving gives him a chance to receive if he's a natural giver. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It'd be interesting to see, yeah, where his Mars and Venus are. Yeah.
Yeah, so for him, it would be the opposite, right? That Mars would be his intended masculine expression, and then his Venus, whatever sign it is, that would be a longing he had.
Mm,
Um, yeah. Sometimes, not sometimes, always, almost always, the giver signs, they just don't know how to receive. Um, People often with Cancer and Pisces are so good at knowing what the other feels and is experiencing, and they create a beautiful space for them. But when it comes time to feeling their own feelings or receiving, it's challenging because that's not their identity or who they know they themselves to be.
hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So interesting.
Yeah.
So, do you so now does she recognize feeling more balanced, more whole?
She does. Yeah. It's interesting because with Mars and Taurus as a female, what you would need to do then is to, like I said before, like really enjoy pleasure, give things to yourself, take time for yourself. And she's a mother as well. So always sort of giving. And so even though that feels a bit awkward at first, she's
Mhm.
learning to do that and knowing that that's part of her path. Like, in order for me to feel aligned, that's something I need to do, and to stop looking for that on the outside. So, and then her being aware of her Venus in Aries and the light and the shadow of that archetype has also helped her to shift, because part of the inner marriage, which is sort of step two,
Mhm.
is how can you take your Venus in Aries and your Mars in Taurus and alchemize those two or marry them,
Yeah.
right? How can her Mars and Taurus be there for her, supporting her, helping support her Venus in Aries to go forth in the world and find those things she's 100% committed to?
Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
And that Mars and Taurus can give her the rest she needs, or
Mm,
the time to herself, or taking baths, or just time to read. That's very supportive to, going
yes.
out in the world.
Yes, it's that inner balance. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same thing, inner marriage, inner balance. But yeah.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but then having more permission to do that because that's going to bring that balance, right? And
Yeah.
then that's what she's really after. And I'm sure how the reason she came to find you and everything, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. And so what we would say in our paradigm is that all the work that one does, like we're talking about today with the inner sacred marriage, is to get you to your North Star.
Mm,
Or your rising sign, your
Okay.
ascendant. So everything you're doing, including the inner sacred marriage process, is to help you get to your rising sign.
To get like to the full potential, you mean?
Yeah, because the rising sign we think of as just the archetype you are here to master in this life.
Hmm.
And so if you were climbing a mountain, you know, the inner sacred marriage is kind of one tool on your way up the mountain to mastering that rising sign. Everything's in service to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Ah, I love it. That's
Yeah.
so, yeah. We could just go on and on and on, I swear, because I just
We,
love this
we
stuff too.
definitely could. And I thought I might just bring myself in
Yeah.
briefly because
Yeah.
I know your Venus and Mars are in the same sign, and so are mine. So
Oh, right. I remember that. Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
So, and just as an example, like I have Venus and Mars in Aquarius. And Aquarius is like the eagle flying way up above humanity with a humanitarian motivation, kind of looking down at the people and being like, what do the people need? What do they need, especially in the area of consciousness? How can we help the people find tools to raise consciousness? And Aquarius is, I often tell my clients, if you have Aquarius, you need to get your weird on. And, because Aquarius is usually marching to the beat of its own drum.
Okay.
But all my life, I have some other signs that are more conventional. Um, I'm a triple earth, which means I've got a Taurus moon, a Capricorn sun, Capricorn rising. So sort of maybe more conventional or how things are done here. And
Okay.
so those more conventional signs were like, oh, I don't know, maybe I'll be too weird, if I really embrace the Venus in Aquarius and the Mars in Aquarius. And so it wasn't until I became an astrological counselor and realized that traditional psychotherapy wasn't for me that
Yeah.
I actually could feel, oh, I'm really embodying that Venus in Aquarius, and it just feels so incredible, like a
Yeah.
completely different feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And then on the Mars in Aquarius, I'd be, as I just explained, kind of sort of looking out there for a man that's unusual, that likes to kind of fly around like an eagle in the intellectual and spiritual realms.
Mhm.
Um, but I wasn't embodying it myself, right? I was sort of looking outside myself. Now I feel like I really am marrying those two, and they're the same.
Mhm.
Yours are the same. So when you have it like that, it's sort of like you cannot not do Aquarius in my case. And I think I remember yours are Gemini,
I
but
think that Sagittarius.
Sagittarius. So you cannot not do Sagittarius. I cannot not do Aquarius. Like it just has to be. And
Yeah.
so the more that I step into that, uh, just the more aligned I feel, grounded, happy, satisfied. It's really amazing when you take a look at different examples to see how
Yeah.
that goes. And do you have any comments on that for yourself with Sagittarius?
Um, well, I've kind of was, I'm not too much versed in the signs as much as the archetypes, like the planets. But I remember when we talked about it that it really made sense.
Well,
So,
let me just tell you a little bit about it
okay.
which is Sagittarius is sort of like the philosophical and literal adventurer. So,
Okay.
right? So it really loves learning, continual learning. It loves travel, new cultures, like often has a curiosity about religions. And
Yeah.
yeah, so Sagittarius is, if you think about hiking a mountain, it's on a trail that's meandering and it's just taking joy in the journey. Look at that plant over there. Oh my gosh, check out that animal.
That's
Right?
me.
Yeah, right. It's so funny. I just I love that. And so then Sagittarius gets to the top of that mountain it's climbing and it sees 8 other mountains. Oh my gosh, we need to go now climb those mountains. See what's at the top of those. So Sag is looking for the capital T truth.
Mm.
What is true philosophically? And then there's also this literal adventurer part. And even though we've just met, I totally see that in you.
Yeah, yeah, cool. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for, yeah, spelling that out. It's
Yeah.
so true. I know. And then I just remember the whole weekend with everybody and everybody sharing. It was just like boom, 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 just one thing after another. Like, absolutely, that's right. Absolutely, that's right. Even some of the gals, like the one gal that hadn't any background at all. And she was like blown away. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's what's so exciting about it is that, like I said before, you can say you need to create inner wholeness. Okay, how do I do that? And
right.
this is a very particular way that is always right.
You know,
And,
that, yeah, go ahead.
oh,
Yeah.
and it's fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exciting. Yeah. It's
It's
exciting. You're like, whoa, somebody's reading my diary or something.
right, right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And I love that it's very much, like practical, right?
Oh,
You can apply it.
right.
And then having someone like yourself that's kind of, I don't know if you consider yourself coaching or consulting, I think is more consulting, that you're giving, recommendations for how to integrate these particular energies so that you feel more whole. It betters your relationships, all your relationships, right? I mean, what
Absolutely.
could be more beautiful than that, to really have great tools for your relationships?
Totally. And I love that you use the word practical because as a triple earth, that is my big thing, which is sometimes when people get readings, they're on the phone or maybe on Zoom now and they're hearing all this terminology and trying to write it down super quickly and they don't really understand what's happening and they think, well, that was cool. And then they stick it in a drawer.
Yeah.
So something that's super unique about me, I know no one else who does it, is that I take the time to create a keynote or like a PowerPoint presentation for people. And so in our session together, we go over that PowerPoint. So then they don't have to take notes. We can both be very present with each other. And where I'm asking them questions and we're going back and forth, then they have a PDF at the end to look at and study because my clients return to me. And it's way more fun too for me if they are really kind of get immersed in it all. So I, even though I'm a double Aquarius, like to make this really practical because it means a lot to me for them to have tools to go and try out, just like you said.
Yeah, I think applying it is the whole key, really. You can
Totally.
understand it, but until you start to apply it, integrate it is another word, right?
Right, right. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Let's see, I had a couple of questions that, I just didn't know. I just was kind of preparing. Um, this, I'm not, I'm just going to go be honest and say I'm going to go look over here for a second. But
No worries. Do whatever you need to.
um, no, it's not coming out. Here we go. Yeah. So this question I thought was really good. That well, so we talked about practicality and all of that, but so with the um, everybody's chart is so different. Do you ever find that somebody has like a natural, balanced Venus and Mars, like they don't even have to really work at it or something like that?
Yeah, I see what you mean. I can't say that I have. I mean, of course, some have been, because like I said before, Venus and Mars and other planets, but we're not talking about those right now, are the intent. It's the intention,
Okay.
right? So I
Mhm.
call them buckets of possibility when I describe someone's Venus and Mars.
Mm, okay.
Buckets, buckets of potential. You can choose to step into that, and I'm pretty sure you're going to feel more aligned or not. It's totally up to you. It's just like a map. So
Yeah.
some people, like, you know how I said I hadn't really owned my Venus and Mars till kind of recently in life? Some other people have just naturally, without even knowing it, stepped in and aligned,
Okay.
maybe with their Venus and Mars, but maybe like more so with one than the other. So I've never found someone who's like, oh, I've got that down, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah,
then there's that piece of the projection and letting people know, again, projection, like projecting an image onto a screen, like that part, and sort of releasing the projection, that's something that most people aren't aware of. So it's good for them to.
exactly. I love that too because yeah, that's what we don't realize is sometimes our block, right? That we're missing is not to do it out there, but do it within.
Yeah,
And then, um, you know, even just based on how we were raised or what our life was like, even different traumas or, whatever circumstances can play into that, kind of like your characters in the play, right?
yeah,
Then when you start to recognize where it's good to create that enactment of wholeness within.
yes,
Then
yes,
when things really line up, I feel like, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
I
Yeah.
had sometimes I tell clients to create an astrological altar so
Ooh,
that and then it's in a place where they walk by it every day,
yeah.
just to remind them, oh yeah, that's my Venus, maybe with a Wonder Woman figure, right? And there's my Mars in Taurus, which is often artistic or into gardening or cooking or some sort of creative endeavor, like ways to remind themselves of it. And I think that's also a practical, helpful, spiritual way to remind yourself of it.
Yeah, it's always good to have reminders. We
Yeah,
can always use that for sure.
totally. There was one other thing I wanted to say, which is sort of like layer number two. So I don't want to get too complex, but there's a thing called natal aspects. So
Mhm.
when you're born and you pop out of the womb, the planets are all in a certain place, and it's like a download at the factory. And then sometimes there are relationships with one planet and another planet in your chart, and those are called natal aspects. And in our paradigm, we call them projects just to make it, more understandable, but that's like a project. It's a life lesson. So some people are born with a natal aspect to, let's take my client Christy again as an example. Her Venus is her intended feminine. And then with her Mars in Taurus, there is a project with Saturn. So it's good to see where if you have that with your opposite sex planet, as in her Mars, if you have Saturn or Pluto in a natal aspect, those are exquisite instructions that you have to do the inner sacred marriage work to have sort of a chance of your relationships going well. So that's just another little addition, another clue. We all need to do it, but if you've got that, you really have to do it.
Yeah, I love that. That's
Yeah.
a good nice tidbit to know for people that
Yeah.
versed in this. So
Yes.
yeah.
Right. Right.
So tell me and whoever's listening how they can get in touch with you and
Yeah. Yeah.
question. Yeah.
I appreciate that. So I have a website that just sort of tells you all about me and how my process works with people. And it's Elise Hebert, PhD.com. And I like to work with people and do an initial session, even if they know something about astrology, because our paradigm is so different. And then after that, I have what I call integration sessions and helping people get integrated with the material because it's a lot, to take in. And then sometimes people are in initiations, which are called transits, and it's like, there can be some tough things you're asked to do, so I can help people move through that in a practical way. Like, what are you being asked, and how do you be? What do you do? Um, and then there are some clients I see weekly. It's really like coaching them using their astrology chart as a basis, as a foundation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Which is can be so helpful. Yeah.
Amazing, because it zeroes right in, on these archetypes, which are like a launching point versus just sort of an amorphous, what do I do?
Hmm.
I find it so helpful and just, and it's deep. We go deep right away because we have the chart there.
Right. Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah. I know. I do too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why, might as well be efficient, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Get right to
Exactly.
it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, Elise, for coming on. I just love that. We have like such similar language
Mhm.
in that and but use it slightly differently, right?
Right.
I'm not, doing work with people with astrology. You
Yeah.
are, but I'm
Yeah.
doing work with people for transformation and different ways, like deepening into their inner psyche, and then with using archetypes and mythology. So
Yeah.
yeah, I love
There's-
that. So yeah, I'd love to maybe even have you on another time.
Would
Can
love it. There's so
yeah,
much to talk about. And I see our work as just different doorways in to knowing the self
yes,
and
exactly.
raising your consciousness.
Yes, yes.
So it's,
Thank you for saying that. Yeah.
yeah, it's so related.
Yeah, and then as we do as, adults, in our later years, right? Then we're helping the younger generations, and I think that's really important as well.
Yeah,
To
to me, one of my favorite groups. I mean, I love anybody who wants to learn about this, come and help them. But some of my favorite groups are the young ones, to help them know themselves and what their potentials are at a young age, because we need everybody operating on all cylinders right now at this great turning of the ages. So I totally agree with that.
do you have any like? Is there like a minimum age that you work with, or like what's the youngest person that you?
It's funny because the first Saturn return is at the age of 29. And I once met an astrologer and he said, I just don't work with anyone till after that's happened, like a kind of maturity.
Yeah.
But I don't see it that way. If somebody is interested, no matter what their age, I think it's fun and also important to help them understand at their level, right? Because it's a different developmental level, at their level, who they are, what they're here to be. And on that note, as a parent, I've used astrology to help me raise my three children, and it's been invaluable because they all have different North Stars, different rising signs, and like the way they communicate is very different for each of them. So if you know that as a parent, it's really, really helpful in raising.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
That's too what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
To to feel or to be more understanding, right? More
Yes.
um, knowledgeable from that level, that perspective, rather than from your own subjective perspective. You have an objective perspective
Yeah.
of your child. Yeah.
Yeah. It reminds me of love languages because in love languages, you have your own and you tend to give love in the way that yours is. But when you learn what someone else's love language is, then you need to be objective about how you give love, because it's, oh yeah, it's not quality time, it's acts of service for that person. Let me remember, it's like that, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again. And yeah, I just love that. We took the time to dive into this and explore the inner sacred marriage. And I'll put in the show notes a link for people that listen in. Yeah.
That's
So,
great. Thank
yeah,
you so much, Mari. I appreciate it and you.
yes. Thank you, Elise. Thank you all for listening and have a beautiful day. Blessings.